Hey everyone, my name is Shanice and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to be wrapping up my top movies and TV shows of 2024. According to my Letterboxd, I logged 88 films slash TV shows last year. I'm pretty sure I've watched more than 88, but these are just the 88 that are found on Letterboxd, because not every show has a Letterboxd entry or profile rather. So yeah, there were a few things that I just wasn't able to log, but I guess it didn't matter because they weren't my favorites anyway. So my number is very random. I have a top 13 and these are combined films and TV shows. I'm not separating them. I also have a few honorable mentions and I will be looking down at my list on my computer, just in case you're wondering why I'm looking off screen. Similarly to my top books of 2024 video, I would like to just take a little bit of time to summarize what I saw as overarching themes of these favorites that I had. And very much like my favorite books of 2024, it looks like my favorite films and TV shows fell kind of along the same lines of featuring characters who are going off on journeys to find themselves, to live up to their truth and potential. A lot of these people are fighting personal demons. They're facing exactly what it is that makes them afraid. Fighting for truth is a big one across all of these titles, and being yourself. Also, in a fun way, meta fiction and self-reflexive cinema. We have a few titles here that, if they're not using the medium to make a commentary on the medium, and the medium being cinema, they're doing it of storytelling itself. I'll get to it when I get to it, but yeah, that's kind of what I found to be a common thread along all of these titles. But yeah, let's just dive right into my favorites, starting with my honorable mentions. I have 6 honorable mentions here. Top of the list, I guess, is Oppenheimer. I rewatched it this year, still 5 stars for me. I think this is Christopher Nolan's magnum opus, honestly. It really, I think, does a great job of grappling with the ethical dilemma of the atomic bomb, and just beautifully rendered through the language of cinema. So I love this movie. Also on my honorable mentions list is the documentary Toni Morrison, The Pieces That I Am. Just to see that someone at the height of Toni Morrison's gifts and talents, that someone like her can still be like really self-critical, but can still push through it and, you know, be Toni Morrison, gives me a lot of encouragement, but also like it makes me realize like I have absolutely no excuse to not create, because if she can do it, we all can do it, and she's Toni Morrison. So yeah, I thought this was a really lovely balanced portrait of a literary icon. Another one on my list is one that I don't hear too many people talking about, but it was a true crime docuseries on Netflix, and I know you're probably like, really? And I went into it also thinking like, this will be fun, but like nothing special. But it seems like it kind of maybe solved the Zodiac murders. So this is called This Is the Zodiac Speaking. I think it's like 3 or 4 parts. Can't remember exactly, but it basically follows a family, lots of talking head interviews with this family, who befriended one of the lead suspects in the Zodiac murders. The main suspect is Arthur Lee Allen, who, if you've seen the David Fincher film, basically like I think who the film thinks is the killer, but of course that's because it's based on the Robert Graysmith nonfiction work, in which he essentially believes it's Arthur Lee Allen, so that's probably why. But he definitely stood out as a suspect, and this series seems like really fair and balanced and intriguing, and like basically solves the case. But I don't know, I don't hear too many people talking about it, but it's an amazing series. It's like captivating, and it could be like really revelatory if all of these things that were presented were factually true. So I really liked it. I really liked it. And it is on Netflix if you would also like to watch. Another series that I really liked, I finished a couple of weeks ago actually, and it's The Sympathizer, which is based on the novel The Sympathizer, which I also read last year. I found the novel to be good, but like very dense, and I felt like loopy and lost and kind of confused. And I think that the TV show adaptation is very necessary to demystify things that were happening in the novel. Episode 4 in particular, I think, is outstanding. And it also going to that self-reflexive quality that I found in a couple of these titles. This one in particular, episode 4, we find our main character, who is unnamed. He goes off and he works as like a Vietnamese cultural consultant for a film. And the film is based on a real world, very, very popular, very lauded film. But the fictionalized version in the book and in this series features Vietnamese actors. It's about the Vietnam War, but from the main perspective of American soldiers who are marooned on Vietnam and they're trying to escape. And so even in a movie about Vietnam, the Vietnamese characters are silenced. So it takes a look at representing trauma, but in the commentary of representing trauma, the show itself has to have actors represent trauma too, you know, because it's like double acting. So it's really fascinating. It was a remarkable show. Another honorable mention is a movie whose ending I did not like, but nonetheless I thought it was really intriguing. That's Conclave, based on a book which I did not know, but this was directed by the same person who directed All Quiet on the Western Front, Edward Berger. And if you like political intrigue, if you like removing the pedestal that certain deified figures are placed upon, I think you'd like this. We see a lot of juxtaposition of, you know, really religious figures just doing regular things like smoking. It's not a spoiler, but the Pope dies in the beginning, and so such a great grandiose figure is literally just like a dead body in a bag. Also the smoke that signifies whether or not a pope has been chosen is, you know, you think of this as this like mystical symbol, but it's really just like some guy pressing a button. It's like unveiling and demystifying a lot of these supposedly great figures and great symbols. So I thought it was a really interesting juxtaposition, great score, and Ralph Fiennes is one of my favorite actors, and he has been for a while, so I think he can do no wrong, and I really like this. The ending was not good. It's true to the book, but I don't like the ending personally. And lastly, as an honorable mention, I'm choosing the movie Rustin with the amazing Coleman Domingo. He plays the real-life figure of Bayard Rustin, who orchestrated, planned out the 1963 March on Washington. We get his story, we see the discriminations that he faced because of his queerness, and we also just get a lot of comedy and a really stellar performance from Coleman Domingo. Now for the top 13 films, my fave of my faves. At number 13 is a TV show. This one is called The Curse. This was created by Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie, and it stars Nathan Fielder, also Benny Safdie, but also Emma Stone. Emma Stone's character, she's like an entrepreneur. Her company is kind of like this house renovation type company. She's about to get a show on HGTV, and she's eco-friendly in her approach to the home renovations. So she takes houses in a local community, revamps them using completely eco-friendly materials. The house itself is supposed to be like good for the environment. It's supposed to be part of the ecosystem itself. There's supposed to be like a symbiotic relationship. And she's all about using local labor and giving back to the community, and like everything on paper sounds good. The show is taking a deeper look into her philosophy and eco-friendly things in general, and seeing how often problematic they can be, and like how even good intentions can lead to chaos and problems, and kind of they can reach the opposite of what you had intended. You know, for example, the main character, played by Emma Stone, her headquarters are like in this lot, and there's a jean store in the same lot, and she finds out that some people are stealing things in the jean store. It's like this, you know, eco-friendly jeans. They tend to be a little expensive, and so she finds that out, and she's like, don't worry, like, don't call the police on these people, just use my card, it's fine, like, we don't want them to go to jail. That sounds good. But then, you know, days, weeks later, her partner, who's played by Nathan Fielder, he's like, what is going on? We have like thousands of dollars for jeans. The jean store, what's going on? And it turns out like the jean store just keeps charging Emma Stone's card for all the jeans that are being stolen, and a lot of them are being stolen because people are figuring out like, oh, some, you know, rich white woman is just paying for our jeans if we steal them. So it's like there's such dark humor. It's unafraid to question popular, trendy, progressive narratives. The show creators, you can tell, are kind of poking fun at themselves, but it's so smart. It's really funny. There's a surrealist element here too. It's called The Curse. I really recommend it. It's on Showtime, and I just kind of want to rewatch it soon. So I thought it was excellent. My number 12 is a documentary that kind of made me sick to my stomach, and it's called Tell Them You Love Me. It's on Netflix, and it is about a woman who went to prison for her crimes. She was a disability advocate and scholar. She was like a major voice in disability studies, and in fact did help bolster a lot of disabled scholarly voices. So she did some good, and she's very intelligent, and so she was a proponent and an educator of facilitated communication, which has been a scientifically discredited technique for a while, and it basically allows, or was supposed to allow, nonverbal people to communicate via a human assistant. So like they'd have a machine with a keyboard, and the human assistant would be seated next to them, and they would hold their elbow, the nonverbal person's elbow, and the idea was that the nonverbal person could communicate, they just didn't have the physical ability to do so, unless by holding the elbow they can just kind of guide the human assistant to the correct letter on the keyboard and therefore communicate. This was disproven. Actually, very cleverly, one of the scientists, and they show the whole process, but one of the scientists basically sat the nonverbal person with their assistant with a divider. He showed each of them a different picture, and told the person to, you know, type what they saw. So let's say the person typing, the nonverbal person would have a picture of a spider, and then the assistant would have a picture of a bear. But then the nonverbal person would type that they saw a bear and not a spider. So it was proven that, like, even unintentionally, the assistant was influencing or controlling what the other person was writing. So all that to say, the woman, whose name is Anna, she was a proponent of this. Her client, the person that she was helping, he went by the nickname of D-Man, but his legal name is Derek Johnson. And so she was his assistant, and she abused, manipulated, took total gross advantage of Derek Johnson. She claims that they were in love. I have really not been as sick as I was watching this film. It was really powerful to have Anna on screen verbally remembering text messages that she sent while the film was putting on screen the direct message text that she was sending. And we can see the difference in what she's like telling us versus what she actually said. It was really balanced. It was really harrowing. It was really gross. And I just feel horrible for Derek, who's the victim in all of this, as well as his loved ones. It was just like such a disservice to disability studies in general. But it also shows us the ambiguity of consent in cases like this and how race plays a role, because I didn't mention Derek Johnson is a black man and Anna is a white woman. So truly fascinating, really disgusting and sad, but a fantastic documentary. Then my number 11 is Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. I am a big Alex Garland fan. This makes a good pairing with the novel that I mentioned in my top books of 2024, It Can't Happen Here. The main cast of characters are a bunch of journalists, photojournalists to be exact, and they live in a time where the United States is divided, and the kind of fascist authoritarian president is the leader of one section of the United States and is at war with the other section of the United States. There is, in fact, a civil war in this movie, and the journalists are risking their lives to try to capture the horrors, the warfare firsthand. And you know, this is a movie about the importance of journalism, but it's not showing us only the journalists do good things and are perfect. It shows us, you know, journalism can be a great thing. It could also be a really bad thing, but it's detrimental to not have it at all. It's a very violent watch, but I think it's necessary to watch in these times. I was really captivated the whole time, and the acting was phenomenal. You have Kirsten Dunst, who is one of the best actresses of her generation, and also Wagner Moura, who is like a Brazilian icon. And yeah, I thought it was a fantastic movie, as was my number 10. This one really surprised me. This was Bones and All, directed by Luca Guadagnino. This is a road trip movie. It's a coming of age, it's a cannibal story, and also a romance. But I cried at the end. Like, that last scene like totally surprised me by how emotional it left me. It's genre bending and very literary. When I finished, I was like, is this based on a book? Because it just feels literary, and it is in fact based on a book. Yeah, I think Luca Guadagnino just plays a lot with the genres that he decides to portray and to delve into, and he makes really exciting movies. I feel like you never really know what to get, except for a lot of style, which this does have. It's also like obviously very gruesome, nauseating at times, but ended up really being beautiful in a non-cheesy way, just like actually very moving. That is my number 10. And number 9 was Memories for Murder, directed by Bong Joon-ho. This is based on a real story of South Korea's first confirmed serial killer. So here we follow two kind of idiotic detectives. There's a visiting detective from another part of Korea. The other two detectives, like the idiotic ones, they are a little jealous because they make fun of him, of the visiting third detective, because they think like, oh, you think you're better than us, you think we can't solve the crime, and they can't, you think you can bother us with your fancy techniques and stuff. So there's a little bit of a conflict between them, the two groups, but in reality they do need him, they do need his help because they're getting nowhere. It's just really creepy. It has an ending that will upset people, I guess, but it was really thrilling, well acted, funny at times, scarier more so because it is based on a true story. Yeah, I highly recommend Memories of Murder. Next up at number 8 is a very popular TV show, Baby Reindeer, created, starring, etc., etc., Richard Gad. I don't think I need to tell you what this one is about, but basically Richard Gad plays himself, and we follow him. He's trying to be a stand-up comedian, and he works at a bar to make money, and one day he just decides to be nice to this woman, this older woman who is crying, and by being nice and by taking things a little too far, he realizes he is getting involved with a mega stalker. Being stalked brings him to his own trauma from a few years earlier, from somebody in the comedy industry. So yes, it's very funny. It's about a comedian, and Richard Gad is funny, but it's also creepy and amazingly acted, and it inspired me because I think it's always fascinating when you make fiction about real life, especially about your own life, and how you weave in such horrible moments and turn them into really affecting, oftentimes beautiful art. I always find that fascinating. So I loved the show, and it really inspired me. At number 7 is American Fiction, another like self-reflexive work. We follow a Black writer who is very prestigious. He's like a literary writer, you know, he's not into commercial fiction. He kind of looks down at other Black writers who make money off of stereotypical Black stories, but he's struggling for the money. His next book is, his editor is having like kind of a difficult time trying to make it happen. And so just for fun, this writer decides to write one of those stereotypical Black stories in exaggerated AAVE, and lo and behold, it gets picked up. He gets a deal. He becomes really famous really quickly. It's basically like a roasting of the publishing industry. Again, another instance of people who think they're doing good and who think they have the right intentions, but they just are so lost and who don't actually know what they're talking about. Yet another like funny movie or show, a movie in this case, that is really emotional too. The main writer is also grieving and is finding new love and ways to feel happy and content with himself. So I thought this was phenomenal. Maybe I'm a little bit late because it came out in 2023, but I really liked it. Then at number 6 we have Nosferatu, which I saw on the 26th. This managed to capture the same feeling I had when I read the novel Dracula years ago, and I still feel those emotions vividly, and this movie managed to capture that. Now, I love the black and white Nosferatu, the F.W. Murnau film. I've projected that multiple times. It's kind of like a standard in cinema classes, but I think this does a good homage to a film like that, but also to other adaptations of Dracula and also the novel. It captures the gothic, so it's not like, I wouldn't say it's a scary movie, but it builds on its darkness. It builds on that creepy, unsettling, uncanny atmosphere that just disquiets us. And the acting is fantastic, especially by Lily Rose Depp. I loved it, even though at my theater for the first 5 minutes they forgot to turn the lights off, of course, which is actually really disappointing because the film starts in black. It's very much intentional, so it would have been nice to experience that, but regardless, I loved the rest of it. And yeah, that is my number 6. And then number 5 is Origin, directed by Ava DuVernay, and this is an adaptation of Isabel Wilkerson's Cast, and I really didn't know how she was going to dramatize a non-fiction book that wasn't just dramatizing historical events, you know, but this was fascinating. She made it more a story of how Isabel Wilkerson went about crafting the book, and it makes sense when the crafting of the book is so interwoven with the writer's own life. So I thought it was a brilliant way to adapt a nonfiction, honestly. Yeah, it could be a little overwrought sometimes, but I just thought it was ingenious, again, how to render a nonfiction into fiction in this way. Really sweeping, really grandiose. I think it fully takes advantage of its medium, and I think Ava DuVernay is totally underappreciated and a great talent, as is like everyone in the cast. I swear, if you see John Bernthal in a film or a TV show, the man will die. Not really a spoiler here because this is like based on a true story, but if he's on screen, his character is gonna die. I don't know. Let this man live in one movie, my goodness. Moving on to number 4, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Was floored by this. This made me cry. This is actually like really deep and philosophical and beautiful and hilarious. Not like just for a kids movie, which I wouldn't even like consider it a kids movie. Like there's this part where Marcel, he's complaining about like dogs barking. He throws a lantern into the sky and it starts floating, and he's like, it's amazing how with something truly elegant in the sky, this is how they react. You know, it's so funny. The voice of Marcel is done by Jenny Slate, and another Nathan Fielder shout out here because he's involved in this, and also Isabella Rossellini, who is also in Conclave, is here as Marcel's grandma Connie, and it's lovely. It's lovely, it's touching, it's heartwarming. I haven't felt this way about a film since like Finding Nemo. I think it's up there for like just heartwarming, beautiful, amazing. I truly loved this movie. Then number 3. Objectively, I think it's not as good as Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, but I'd be lying if I said like this did not impact my year. Number 3 is Wicked. Part 1, obviously, directed by John M. Chu. Saw it twice in the theater. I would willingly watch it a third and a fourth time in the theater, but I'm not paying for that. I've pre-ordered the Blu-ray. Like, I am ready to watch this again and again and again. I've been listening to the soundtrack nonstop. I loved it. I think it's phenomenal. Cynthia Erivo is a revelation in this. Ariana is fantastic, of course. I don't think it's a technically perfect movie, but I just loved it. I think sometimes you just have to revel in the fact that you're just an emotional human being who wants to have a good time. And that's exactly what I had when I watched this the 2 times. I can't wait for part 2. It's annoying that we have to wait like 11 more months for it, but I'm ready. I am ready. Another like spectacle of a movie is my number 2, which is Dune Part 2. Another one I saw in the theaters. Just sweeping, epic, gorgeous, practical effects and locations. I went to the location for my own studies. Like, I went there to Jordan. So it's interesting, like, to think like I was there. Just beautiful cinema, beautiful filmmaking, from the smallest details to the most like obvious superficial ones. I just love it. And look at Denis Villeneuve making me like Dune, the books. Like, it's unheard of. I never thought I would like Frank Herbert's novels, but I'm a fan now. I'm a fan, and you can tell that this is a passion project for Villeneuve. It's visible, it's palpable. And then my number 1 film is part 1 of a duology. I personally obviously prefer the first one because it's my number 1 of the year. The second one is also good, but the first one of that duology is called The Immigrants, and it's directed by Jan Troell. This tells the story of a Swedish family, a farming family. They're having trouble with their lands. Like, they're not growing any crops. Like, it's getting almost impossible to survive living the way they do. So they join the bandwagon, join their fellow countrymen out west to the new land of the United States. I say this sarcastically, of course, because indigenous peoples were there. That's their plan, their goal. They want to go to the new land of the Americas and build a new life for themselves. And it all starts off just really hopeful, really positive, really optimistic. And then they get on the ship and start their journey, and it is torture and struggle from that point on. And the movie deconstructs this like idyllic vision of what it's going to be like coming to America. You know, it's like the movie knows that these people are unaware of the people already there and how those people are going to defend their land, and also understanding how different immigration is going to be for certain people, because these Swedish characters share a ship with African slaves. So the movie is very much telling us like immigration does not look the same, you know, chosen, willing immigration and like forced immigration. And also when you get to the land, the lives of those people's descendants is very different. So it's a very self-aware movie, very long, epic, but truly a masterpiece of cinema, I think. Just really moving and lasting. Like, it's amazing. So carve out like 3 or 4 hours and watch it if you can. And yeah, it was my top film of 2024. I hope you maybe found some titles that you have not seen, or maybe I got you interested in something. Let me know what your favorite film and TV show was of last year. I'm very curious. I hope in 2025 I get back to the amount of films and TV shows that I used to watch. Like, I was like a 200 plus type of viewer. I hope I get back to, you know, watching more things, because it's truly something I love to do. Yeah, thank you for staying with me here if you still managed to watch until the end. But I hope to see you very soon, and I hope you're enjoying your start of 2025 and watching some fun, interesting, inspirational things as well. So yeah, I will see you all very soon, and thank you. Bye.